everybody, we're back. Brand new Friday review here on the Cabral Concept. Can't wait to get to our research of the week. One of them, a brand new cutting edge study that I will assure you will literally probably have you laughing at the insanity sometimes of conventional medicine. Can't wait to bring that one to you. But also, I want to share some research on a specific blood work marker that all men should be running, and that includes in your late 20s to early 30s at the latest. So we'll go over that, but in case you missed anything earlier this week, on Monday on the show, we went over stop trying to fix yourself and do this instead, meaning that it is no good to you or anybody else to nitpick everything in your life, what you're not doing well, and instead you need to focus on certain growth-based activities that will allow you to be who you ultimately want to be. Check out that show. That was earlier this week. All shows are at stephencabral.com/podcast. Tuesday's show is the one thing to sharpen your memory and improve your focus and strengthen your brain as you age. You can make this happen. The third one is and by the way, that one's free. This causes your body to create more fat cells. We go over exactly and really busting the myth that the number of fat cells or adipose tissue you have in your body is dictated essentially at birth or during your early childhood years. I share with you how people create more fat cells, not just swell the fat cells they currently have, and what to do about it. And then yesterday's show was 600 milligrams of this supplement. It's not even an expensive supplement. This supplement actually shows that it may prevent cancer and ongoing cancer, especially in the colon. Check out that show. Again, all of them are at stephencabral.com/podcast. Now, today we're going to do this just a little bit in a different order. Typically, I always bring you my product review or my book review. I am going to do that still. But what I want to do is go over the Personomics tip of the week, one research study, and then come back to this lab test. You'll see why in just a moment. So Personomics tip of the week. All this year, I want to share with you brand new Personomics tips of the week, teaching you that the old way of a pill for every ill and basically just running your blood work and waiting for something to become into a disease marker is not the way that anybody should be, hopefully, living their healthy life. Okay, so what do we need to look at? If your body feels out of balance in any way, could be allergies or asthma, could be autoimmune issues, could be headaches, migraines, it could be skin itchiness, could be psoriasis. We'll be talking about that later today. What we want to focus on is not just the immune markers and not just the inflammation, but something that I like to refer to as the control center of the body. And no, that's not actually the brain. It is your gut that's referred to as the second brain. And that is because your gut regulates immunity, it regulates inflammation, neurotransmitters, and even certain hormones. So if there's something off with mood, if there's something off with sleep, of course, if there's bloating or digestive issues, but if there's something off with the immune system, we need to be looking at the gut. I'll tell you right now, I would never have gotten better, would never have gotten rid of my allergies or borderline asthma. It's just low asthma. I didn't really have like deep asthma, and that was not a major health issue, that's for sure. Wasn't even top 10. But I wouldn't have gotten rid of my autoimmune issues, I would have gotten rid of my sleep issues, wouldn't have got rid of my skin issues if I hadn't fixed my gut. So when in doubt, yes, of course, you should run the big five, but when in doubt, if you can only run one or two, look at the gut with something like the Candida metabolic and vitamins test, and maybe even the bacteria and parasite stool test to look for parasites as well. All right, command center, control center of the body is the gut. Look there first. As I told you before, if I could only work on two things with every individual, it would be the gut and it would be stress. All right, that's our Personomics tip of the week. So our second one is going to be what our product review is on, but let's give you the research first. So this is fairly new. This is out of the New England Journal of Medicine. So obviously, prestigious journal. This is done by Dr. Monique Royboy, a professor of urology at Erasmus Medical Center in Rotterdam. And this was in the Netherlands, I believe. Over 160,000 individuals. Here's what they found. Doing a PSA screening does help to reduce cancer, especially over the next 23 years, which is what this specific study looked at. So why is this important? Because PSA, which literally every male should be running, in my opinion, even as a teenager and in their 20s, because prostate cancer can also affect younger men as well. But PSA, which stands for prostate-specific antigen, essentially measures the levels, we'll call it, of inflammation in the prostate itself. So I'm going to give you the exact levels because your doctor will not give you this. So this is really important because literally your PCP 99 out of 100 will absolutely not look at your number this way. All they'll say is that if it's below a 4, you're good to go. And it's so far from the truth. That's why conventional medicine drives me crazy, because if it's within range, they literally do nothing about it. All they do is scan the lab. I know that it's a health insurance issue. It's not your doctor's fault. I honestly believe that. It's not your doctor's fault. It's the way that they're forced to practice medicine. It is literally an assembly line. So if they don't see anything high or low, they just glaze past it because they don't have to do anything about it. But what I want to share with you is this, is that PSA, which does not necessarily mean cancer, could mean that there's a growth of the prostate. We call that benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH. So it means an enlargement of the prostate. Happens to most men as they age. I've talked about that on a previous show. It could be prostatitis, which is inflammation of the prostate, or urinary-based infection. That can be ruled out by literally just a urine-based test, typically with leukocytes or maybe even some blood in the urine. It could be an issue, higher levels of PSA, with recent ejaculation. That means before you run your blood work, you should not have an ejaculation 24 to 48 hours before, because that can actually raise that number. It could be cancer. That's the other truth. So that's why we do have to look at it, because it could be a number for cancer. All right. So let me give you the real numbers and what they mean. In my practice, it's this. I want them to have a PSA of less than 1. That is what I look for. Clinically, we look for men who are between 40 and 49 years old to have a less than a 2.5. But again, this is caveated, and I'll give you that in just a second. Between 50 and 59, so let's just say in your 50s, it should be a 3.5 or less. In your 60s, a 4.5 or less. And in your 70s, a 6.5 or less. So 60s, 4.5, 50s, 3.5, and 40 to 49, 2.5. And that's because I shared with you, as men age, they get inflammation typically of the prostate. However, this can be helped. And I talked about this just about a week ago. So let me give you that show. And that was on episode 3660. So you can always go to stephencabral.com/3660. But why don't I do this? I'm just going to link it up at stephencabral.com/3668. That's where all today's show notes are. Okay. So here's something much more important. Again, in my practice, I want men to have a PSA of less than 1, 1.5 at the highest. All right. There's so much more to look at it, though, than just the number itself. For example, let's say that your PSA is typically a 0.4. And then the next year it is, or in 6 months from now, if you run your blood work every 6 months, it's a 0.8. That is concerning because it is a doubling of your normal PSA. So you want to take that into consideration. Now, could it just be that day's lab work? Of course, it's a snapshot in time. I'm not saying that. But that is actually important. So let me give you another example. If you're always at a PSA of a 2.0 and you've been that way for 3 or 4 years, it's actually far less alarming to be a 2.0 for 3 or 4 years than to go from a 0.4 to a 1 in a year. Without a doubt it is, because it's also about velocity of change. So that's really important. And here's another number, again, that your doctor will not give you. You do not want to see your PSA levels double in under a 3-year period of time. So if at 40 years old, you had a PSA of 0.5, and at 42 years old, it went to a 1.4, that would be concerning, right? You got more than doubling in less than 3 years. Take that into consideration. Remember, one PSA level is only one level checked. If it's ever elevated, you'll go back most likely in 12 weeks. You'll follow all the different recommendations that I gave you. You'll have your PSA tested again. Maybe there was just some inflammation that you had, and that could have been the reason why. So very important, because a lot of people have written off PSA as a lab marker, saying that doesn't really correlate too much. I'm telling you right now, it still is a measure. The only issue is it's that a non-specific measure. Just because you have a high level doesn't mean you have prostate-based cancer, but it does mean something's going on with the prostate and that prostate-specific antigen. So continue to run your PSA level, but yes, could be inflammation-based, could be other reasons, could be cancer. We're going to look at it. And when you run your PSA, in addition to at least torso-based MRI, you're going to be able to look for prostate-based growth at the same time. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Now we've got one last research study for the day. We jumped around a little bit today, but that's okay. It's our show. We can, do as we like, right? All right. So here it is. And this one drove me a little crazy. Let me click on the link for you, and we'll get to this specific study. It's called Scientists Uncover why psoriasis can turn into joint disease. A hidden immune cell journey from skin to joints may explain psoriatic arthritis. This was literally just published 48 hours ago. That's it. And it was done out of Frederick Alexander University, Erlangen, Nuremberg. Wow. I mean, literally couldn't have pronounced that probably more terribly, and apologies to the university. This was also published in Nature Immunology, and I will link up exactly to that study. At 3668. All right, so let's give you the summary of what they said. And then I'm going to share with you how kind of insane it is that conventional medicine literally continues just to look at surface level issues. So researchers have figured out how psoriasis can quietly turn into joint disease for some patients. Immune cells formed in inflamed skin can travel through the body and reach the joints, where they sometimes trigger inflammation. The key difference lies in the joint's ability to keep those cells in check. The insight could help doctors identify warning signs early and prevent lasting joint damage. I read the article, I read the research. Here's what it says, is that people first start with psoriasis oftentimes, not always, but then about 26 to 30% of those individuals, anywhere between 20 and 30%, end up developing painful joint inflammation, referred to as psoriatic arthritis, which basically means this. They have psoriasis, plus they have rheumatoid arthritis. So they have two autoimmune diseases that are both caused by an imbalance of basically a stronger prevalence of Th1 immune dominance, creating a higher level of typically CD8-based immune cells that then cause tissue-based destruction. This is known from a pathophysiological level. Why this is important is that is not an underlying root cause. Yes, this is happening. But what conventional medicine continues to fail to see and look at is that there's always an underlying root cause. And oftentimes, these antigens end up at a skin-based level, they end up in a joint-based level, sometimes they end up in the thyroid. Oftentimes, they end up around the myelin sheath of the nervous system. We call that MS, or Hashimoto's for the thyroid, right? So what you have to understand is that these are all autoimmune-based processes. The immune system going after itself. However, there's a reason why the immune system is attacking itself, and oftentimes there is bacteria or some type of pathogen or antigen, we call it, in the joints or moving out towards the skin or the thyroid, etc. Here's the issue. Oftentimes, as I shared earlier today, and this was just by coincidence, this is my Personomics tip of the week, is that intestinal permeability with increased lipopolysaccharides, also called endotoxemia. I have a whole podcast on this. If you're not able to find it, stephencabral.com/podcast. Always ask at cabralsupportgroup.com. We'll help you find it. And these lipopolysaccharides or endotoxemia leads to heart disease. It can lead to type 2 diabetes. It can lead to autoimmune-based issues. It is absolutely one of the reasons why I had an autoimmune issue, and there's no way that it has anything just to do with these immune cells moving around the body. They can move wherever they'd like to move, truthfully. Like, that's the way that it is. I had a genetic predisposition to it. I had it for many years, and now I haven't had it for over 20 years. And the reason is that I fixed my gut, got rid of the candida overgrowth, got rid of the SIBO, got rid of the H. pylori, eliminated the food sensitivities, sealed up my gut wall, and it was no longer there. And the reason is that my immune system then got to quiet down when I was no longer spewing all of these bacteria into my immune system or my bloodstream, which was increasing my immune cell activity. This has been known for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, with Ayurvedic medicine. And I just don't want to wait for conventional medicine to eventually figure this out. I mean, they're finally caught up on so many things, but not on this. Don't wait. Fix your gut, heal and seal the gut. And I'm telling you right now, it doesn't happen overnight. The body begins to heal. It really does. So hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to link up all the show notes at stephencabral.com/3668. Have an amazing end of your week, and I'll be back tomorrow with our weekend edition of the show, the Cabral House Calls. Take care.